Phillies baseball is finally back. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Phillies Hat Soup Media, and here we're going to be talking about how the Phillies have been doing this spring training this far and the expectations moving forward and some of the names I've really liked to see so far this spring. Now, I guess before we get into this video, please subscribe if you haven't yet. Please turn on that notification bell. Please like this video, comment on this video, share this video, and let's get into this. So the last video I made, I believe, was 3 weeks ago, announcing that I was no longer going to be doing every single regular season game, and I said in that video that I would be back within the next couple weeks to talk about spring training and other moves going on. So it's been a pretty good spring training so far. Of course, the Phillies did get squashed yesterday by the Toronto Blue Jays at TD Ballpark by a final score of 16-4. That was certainly a rough one, but I mean, hey, it's spring training. I'm not really going to put too much thought into it. But we are more than a week into spring training, ladies and gentlemen. It's hard to believe, and it's already flying by. By the end of the month, by March 30th, we are going to be opening up the season in Dallas, Texas. So it's hard to believe we're already at this point already. We've still got a long way to go, though. But I've been pretty impressed with the performance we've seen so far out of this team. Again, it's hard to really get a good gauge, especially this early in spring training and spring training in general. I'm not really going to put too much stock into a 5-0 loss to the Baltimore Orioles on a Wednesday afternoon in Clearwater, Florida, but you still have to pay attention to a certain extent and, see how younger guys are doing, especially guys like Yohan Rojas, Andrew Painter, Mick Abel, guys like that mostly. I mean, I'm not really going to think too much of, Trey Turner goes 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts and a ground out. Rhys Hoskins goes 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. No one cares. No one cares about that. Those are guys that have already proven themselves as very proficient big league players. Of course, there is some upsetting news around Andrew Painter. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but at first I want to talk a little bit about his start last week against the Minnesota Twins, where he went 2 innings, 3 hits, 1 run was earned, didn't walk in many, and struck out 1. He looked great. He really looked great. He was topping at like 99 with his fastball. We all know this is a guy that could really put the heat on. I mean, he has no problem gaining speeds with his fastball. Pretty much like anybody else within this Phillies pitching staff. I mean, we have a lot of guys that could really put the heat on the ball. I mean, no question. And we already have Zach Wheeler, the top guy in this rotation, that can top out the high velo of the fastball. Mick Abel, the first-round pick of 2020, he has no problem with it as well. So Andrew Painter, for the most part, he was very solid. But unfortunately, just a few days after his start, those 2 innings going against the Minnesota Twins, it was reported that Painter has been dealing with some tenderness in his elbow. So that is very unfortunate to hear. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just early in the spring. We're already starting to see some health concerns with Andrew Painter, and I hate to see him have a setback like that. But hopefully the Phils can handle that accordingly. Hopefully they don't rush him back out there. But I mean, that is very disappointing to hear. Obviously, this time 2 years ago, he wasn't in the organization yet. So he's only like a year older than I am. So he's around like 20 years old. So this is a guy that really was just on a roll last year. I mean, he pitched in 3 different levels in the minor leagues last year. So, he's had a lot of success so far in his professional playing career. I don't think it's going to be long until this guy reaches the big leagues. I think we all expected him to be up here this year. It's only, some tenderness in the elbow, but I mean, still, for a guy that, puts a lot of heat on his fastball, it's very dejecting to see that report come out about the tenderness in the elbow. So hopefully he could tone down a little bit. It wasn't like he went 6 innings. Of course, it was a spring training game. He only went 2 innings. But hopefully he will be just fine. Bryce Harper, still not at camp yet. Of course, he is recovering from off-season Tommy John surgery. All dates back to last year against the New York Mets in April. It was through like the first 10 games of the season. Had a throw in from right field, and something kind of got messed up in his arm there. He pretty much had to DH the whole rest of the season. Of course, he missed a lot of time when he broke his thumb against Blake Snell being up at the plate in San Diego. So it's been kind of a rocky road for Harp. He's supposed to report to the camp apparently this Wednesday, so in 2 days. He was at a NASCAR race yesterday in Las Vegas. As I touched on, in prior videos, it's so disappointing not to see Bryce Harper in the lineup. I mean, it's so disappointing. But this is where depth has to really come through, and it really came through last year. And keep in mind, we had a lousy Nick Castellanos We didn't have Trey Turner. Guess who stepped up? Kyle Schwarber stepped up. JT Realmuto really stepped up in a big way. I mean, when Bryce Harper went down, JT Realmuto stepped his game up in a big way and returned to being, in my opinion, one of, if not the best catchers in the game. And Rhys Hoskins, we all know that he has a tendency to be very, very streaky as a hitter, but for the most part, he also stepped up in a big way. So we were able to see other guys step up in his absence. And now you put on top of that Nick Castellanos was probably battling a wrist injury for the majority of the season last year, because I was on somebody else's channel the other day, and we were talking about this too, about how Nick Castellanos, if you go take a look at his stats of his first month of the 2022 season, for the pretty much the entire month of April, he's actually very productive. If you go take a look at the numbers, Nick Castellanos has never been a kind of guy that gets on base a lot, so you can't really expect that out of him. But up until like May 5th, as apparently is to around the timeline is when that wrist injury happened. May 5th up until we lost Game 6 of the World Series, he just wasn't there. Not at all. The home run total was way down last year, so I expect a big bounce back. And he's already looked much better here in spring training. That's another name that I've been very happy with. Nick Castellanos, he's already homered once, and of course he was, the kind of a singles hitter for the most part last year. I mean, that's pretty much all he did was hit singles, and his OPS was just dreadfully low. The OBP, as I said, never really been that great for Nick Castellanos. I mean, you go take a look at his 2021 campaign, which is his strongest season he's ever had in his career, and honestly, his OBP was never anything to write home about, but it was really low last year. It was really low last year. Schwarber's been notoriously known for starting off the season slow, but come mid to late May, heading into June, I mean, this guy really turns it on. I mean, you've seen it in his career, and I mean, hopefully he doesn't start off as slow as he did last year, because honestly, last year was just a dreadfully slow start. So hopefully he can kind of hit the ground running a little bit sooner. Trey Turner. I mean, does anything else need to be said? I mean, Trey Turner's already had a fantastic spring. He's looked so good. And I love the way this guy plays the game. I mean, we all remember in August of 2021 when the Los Angeles Dodgers were in town, the slide into home plate when it was like raining out, or maybe it had just been raining. I think I was at that game. I mean, that slide went viral. I mean, he just plays the game so smooth. He's a very, very fun player to watch, and he's so fast. I mean, this guy is fast, and he's an all-around good baseball player. And I think he's going to be a great mentor to Bryson Stott, who's now taking over at second base after the departure of Gene Segura. So Trey Turner's really going to have a big impact on this team. He's a World Series champion. Add another World Series champion to this team, right? I mean, you got Kyle Schwarber, 2016 championship with the Chicago Cubs. Now you add Trey Turner, the 2019 championship with the Washington Nationals, back with his former teammate Bryce Harper. And I really think that he's really going to help step up during Bryce Harper's absence. So we already factor in, how deep and dangerous this lineup is heading into opening day without Bryce Harper. And I mean, with Trey Turner, I mean, hopefully a healthy Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, we all know that he could just, hit nukes. JT Realmuto, the best catcher in the game, if not one of the best catchers in the game, and Rhys Hoskins. I mean, you already think, that lineup is already just so dangerous. And then you add Bryce Harper on top of that, come hopefully around early June. Early to mid-June. I mean, that's just going to be lethal. That is just going to be lethal. I think we're going to have no problems with our offensive production. It all depends on health. And a lot of it's just luck in a lot of ways. I think we saw that last year. You know what I mean? Just, if our guy's going to stay healthy, our guy's going to stay healthy. Rhys Hoskins just made his spring debut. Of course, he did undergo a knee surgery in the offseason. He just made his spring debut a few days ago and collected 2 hits. So it's nice to see the big fella back out there, number 17. He's going to be ready for opening day, which is great to hear. I mean, we can't afford to have another one of our key offensive players not be ready for opening day. I also want to talk about Yohan Rojas. I mean, what this guy's done here in the spring has been pretty impressive. I mean, him defensively especially, it's been really fun to watch. I mean, the diving catches, he's a very athletic guy, and this is a name we've heard a lot about over the last few years. Yohan Rojas, definitely a part of this team's outfield's future. I mean, there is no question about that. I definitely see him being a key piece in this organization going forward. And of course, the Phillies are back at it today against the Baltimore Orioles. 1-5 the first pitch. Believe it or not, Scott Kingery has actually really not looked that bad. But I mean, still only threw 10 at bats and 400 average. Who really cares? It's only 10 at bats. He's still just, oh my gosh, that guy just does nothing for me. He's still, riding out that contract he signed from the Phillies back in 2018 in spring training. I can't believe that was 5 years ago now. And here we were thinking that he was going to be a key piece in this organization's future down the road, and he has just been nothing but a disappointment. So Scott Kingery, of course, seeing a good amount of playing time, especially on the road more so. here so far this spring through 10 at-bats. Hasn't looked bad, but I mean, come on. I think we all know what kind of player Scott Kingery is. We all saw what he did last year in the minor leagues. Of course, he went up briefly last season. Didn't even get an at-bat last year, but he did see some time in the field. Derek Hall hitting .333 through 12 at-bats this spring with a homer and 3 RBIs. This is a guy that's always loved to hit in spring training. I just worry about him going against left-handed pitching. He needs to learn how to hit left-handed pitching. This is another guy that was a big piece that stepped up during Bryce Harper's absence. Hopefully he can contribute to the Phillies here heading into the 2023 season. Bryce instead has gotten off to a rough start this spring, batting .077 with a 154 PS through 13 at-bats. So that's kind of a rough start for him, but kind of like Scott Kingery, right? I mean, batting .400 through 10 at-bats, it's still early. Any way you want to look at it, whether a guy's setting the world on fire, hitting .400 through 10 at-bats, or hitting .077 through 13 at-bats, it goes both ways. It's still early. It's still way too early to draw, major conclusions. You certainly like to see him start off the spring a little bit better. I mean, there's no question about that. Michael Plasmeyer will be getting the start for the Phils today against the Baltimore Orioles at Ed Smith Stadium in Sarasota, Florida. As the Phils are on the road again. Of course, they were on the road yesterday, and they are back out on the road again today. There's some key pieces in the back end of the bullpen, like Craig Kimbrel, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Jose Alvarado. They've all looked great, I've actually been pretty impressed with Craig Kimbrel because he's kind of getting towards the end of his career. I mean, of course, he is only 34 years old, but he's just not been as good the past few years. But hey, I still think he has a lot left in him, and I really think that he could be a big piece into this back end of the bullpen here for the Phils. And I'm not worried about this back end of the bullpen with Soto, Alvarado, Dominguez, now Kimbrel. I mean, this is a really good back end of the bullpen. I'm just a little bit more worried about the middle relief situation, as I've touched on before. Bailey Falter, one guy who has not looked good here so far this spring at all. He just is not, especially last week against the Red Sox, he got absolutely shelled. So that's one name I'm not really feeling too good about. So guys, that's pretty much it. I'm glad to be back. I mean, of course, as I said, my last video was 3 weeks ago. I'm not going to be taking another 3 weeks off. I can tell you that it's going to be within the next week and a half to 2 weeks. And of course, as the regular season comes around, it's going to be at the end of every homestand and at the end of every road trip. I may vary from time to time. It's always going to be that, but maybe there's like a really crucial series. I'll recap that. So guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Please turn on that notification bell. Please like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Check out the social media link in the description section at Phillies Hot Stove Media, Instagram. Follow me on Twitter at Hot Stove Media. Call or text 267-225-3392. Email me philliesHotStoveMedia@gmail.com. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm Luke, and I'll talk to you later. Let's go Phils. See you guys.